Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of the Sefer Iyov, the book of Job. We are in chapter 38. We are about to read verse 23. In the beginning, this is kind of a continuation. We just stopped at 22 last time simply because it's a long chapter. Just to remind you what we were speaking about before, what God was saying. This was God's speech to Iyov, God's response to why Iyov is suffering. So without answering Iyov's question, God established several things in the first half of the chapter that we studied in the last podcast. Number one, you, Iyov, are speaking without knowledge. Do you have any knowledge of why nature is the way it is? In other words, were you here? Were you the one that created the world, that made the laws of nature, which govern how the world works? Do you control the sun? And did you make the laws of the sun such that the sun should not shine for evil people? Right? No. I made the laws of nature so that they work the way they work, and I made them work in the way that they work, which affects both evil and good people. Right? If you would have had the ability to decide like you decide in your courts, right, who gets punished and who gets rewarded, then you might have made laws differently. I made the laws of nature, and you cannot comprehend them because they are beyond nature. I'm the creator of it. So you cannot comprehend why I made the laws the way I did. Right? And now I'm about to read verse 23 and continue God's speech, and he's going to pivot to some other points over here. But first, let's read what he says in 23. Asher chosachti le'eschor. Do you know those things which I have set aside for times of trouble, for times of want? Liyom karav, for times of conflict, umilchama, and war. Right? You don't know the kinds of things I put in nature for the world to last through when bad things happen, when there's war, when there's conflict, right? How that's going to affect the way history works, the way people work. These laws that govern how this happens are things that I put in place. Or do you know which path the light will travel on? Do you have any idea how the east winds will spread across the land? Have you made the path through the desert, through the wilderness, through which the floodwaters will flow? Bringing the image of a wadi through which, when there's floodwaters, when there's rain, it flows through what was previously a dry path. But the derech lachaziz kolos, a path in the sky for the thunderstorms to travel. Right? In other words, these things of nature, you don't understand, you don't know them, right? Right? You have so much to learn, even though nowadays, of course, we have a better understanding of these laws of nature, right? But there's still so much for us to know. Go study them, go learn about them, and you'll find a lot, you'll learn a lot, you'll know a lot. But ultimately, you're going to get to a point where you're not going to know why the law is the way it is. You'll just know what the law is. And now God starts to pivot to something completely different, which is an extremely important point. You, Iyov, are thinking about you, right? You're thinking about you as a person, and when you look at other people, you're thinking about them as a person. They did something good, and therefore they deserve good. They did something bad, therefore they deserve bad, right? So then you ask questions, right? But the world is not just about you. All that rain, all of this nature that I described before, the winds, the snow, the hail, the thunder, the water flowing in the wilderness, all of these things, and the clouds and so on, all of the things that we studied both in today's half and in the first half of this chapter. All of this creates and brings about rain al eretz lo ish, on lands where there are no human beings, there are no people. Right? The laws of nature are universal. They apply everywhere. I give rain to the jungles where there's no people. It has nothing to do with you're good or bad. Right? Midbar lo adam bo, into wildernesses where there isn't a single man. Why? Hasbia shoah u'mishoah, in order that the desolated land should have what it needs, should be satisfied, should have the rain that it needs, should have the nourishment that it needs. Ulahatzmiach motzadesh, and that the grasses and the vegetation should grow in those places. Right? The laws of nature are not just about human beings, and not just about the way my creation is for everything, for everyone, for all the animals. Hayesh lamatar of. Does the rain have a father? or miholid eglei tal, or who gave birth to the drops of dew. Those have nothing to do with people. People don't decide, that now it should rain, and then they make rain, and now there should be dew, or there should be moisture, and they make moisture, right? These things are created, have nothing to do with human beings. Mi beten mi yatso hakarach, from whose stomach, in other words, from whose womb came out ice. Ukfor shemayim milado, and the frost that comes from the heavens, who gave birth to it? That's not human. That's an entire world, laws of nature that happen because I created it for nature, for the world. They have nothing to do with people. Don't ask me why you as a person are suffering. Look at everything around you. The laws of nature are created for everything. And again, the wonders of water and the forms of water, which has been a theme in this entire chapter so many times, right? That how is it created such that water can congeal like stone and become hard like a rock into ice, and then trap the depths of the deep. This is a reference to the freezing over of a lake, and so that the ice traps the waters underneath. Hatikasher ma'adanos kima. And then God says, that's the incredibleness and the wonders of the world of nature around us that has nothing to do with human beings. But then there's the universe beyond planet Earth, what we would call today, beyond the sublunar realm in the Aristotelian words. In other words, look up in the heavens, right? All of that has nothing to do with humans. That entire universe of the stars and the constellations. Do you have any control? Hatikasher, can you tie ma'adanos kima, the ropes? And these are the names of different constellations. Of the constellations, in other words, figuratively speaking, the constellations may have been thought to stay together by being tied together by ropes, so therefore they keep the form that they have. Or can you open up the ropes and ties that keep Kesil, the Orion? Can you open up those ropes so that Orion would scatter, the stars would scatter? Hatotzi Mazaros bi'ito, can you lead Mazarot, which is another constellation, bring it out into the sky in its time? Va'ayesh al bonea tenachem, and can you, the bear and its sons, also a reference to a constellation and a group of smaller constellations near it, Tanchem, can you lead them, right? Hayadata chukos shemayim, do you know the laws of the heavens, right, that guides the movements of the planets and the stars? Im tasim mishtaro ba'aretz, can you impose its authority over Earth? In other words, it was always thought that the stars have influence over what happens on the Earth. Do you have any control over the influence that the stars have over what happens for us on this planet? Hatorim la'av kolecha, can you raise your voice to the clouds? V'shabas mayim techasecha, so that it decides to cover you in its water and in its rain. Hatishalach birakim ve'elechu, can you send lightning out so that they should go where you want them to go? V'yomer lecha hinenu, and they will tell you, here I am, I'll go where you want me to go. You can't control nature. You can't control these things. The forces of nature are beyond what human beings can control, right? They're not there for human beings. The forces of nature do what the forces of nature do. And sometimes it may result, the feeling that you get from this so far is that God is saying, I set up the world for many, many, many reasons, not just for people. The laws of nature were set into place to work the way the laws of nature work. And sometimes it might be perceived by you as being unfair if the results of those laws seem to occur and are unfair, but this is a wisdom that you cannot understand, you cannot access. Mishos batuchos chachma. Who is the one that placed wisdom in the hidden places? Or who is the one that gave the mind, the human mind, understanding? In other words, the idea of wisdom itself, your ability to understand and even ask these questions, who is the one that made that happen? Who is the one that made you wise? Mi yisaper shechakim b'chachma. Who is the one who can speak wisely about the pathways in heaven? V'nivlei shamayim mi yashkiv. In other words, I was the one that gave you wisdom. And therefore, right, who is the one who can speak wisely about what happens in the heavens? Who is the one who can nivlei shamayim mi yashkiv, who can lay to rest the the containers that are in the heavens, right? I made your wisdom, and I made it with its limitations, right? You cannot describe and explain to me why the laws of nature and the laws that govern the movements of the universe are the way they are. Bitseket afar lamutzak. And who is the one who made the earth congeal together as a solid block, right? In other words, why is this planet one block? Why isn't it just scattered all over the place, right? Who made the laws that made the earth what it is? I guess today that would be due to the force of gravity. But whatever, who made the law of gravity? Uragavimu dubaku, and made it so that all of the mud that clumps together in this world, that created this world that we live on, right? Who made the laws that made all of that stick together? Hatatsud lavi taraf. And then God looks at nature itself, right? In other words, are you the one that makes sure the lion captures its prey? Right? It's not all about human beings. I made a world in which the wilderness needs rain for the vegetation. The lion needs prey, right? V'chayat kafirim timalei. The young lions, did you fill them, fill their appetite, right? All of the wild young lions, ki yashochu ba'ma'onos, those lions and other animals, predators, as they crouch in their hiding places, yeshvu vasukol mo'arav, and they lie in ambush in order to create an ambush in order to catch their prey. Miyachin la'orev tzedo. Who is the one that prepares the food for the raven that the raven captures to eat? Ki ladav el yishaveu. Because the children of the raven that the bird needs to feed, they cry out to God. It is God that created nature in such a way that there are lions lying in ambush, and that the birds of prey have prey to eat. Yitz'u livli ochel, right? Because if not for me, if not for the laws of nature that I put in place, in other words, sometimes there's a lion and there's prey. I made the world in such a way. What did the prey do to deserve to be eaten? God's not answering that question for us. But he is telling us that these laws of nature, the way nature is the way nature is, and it has nothing to do with me and you. The world is so much larger than you and I. The laws of nature are the way they are for much more reasons, and reasons which we cannot grasp and understand way beyond your behavior and whether or not you deserve X, Y, or Z. This concludes chapter 38. It's not really an end. Chapter 39 is a continuation of God's speech and the points that God is making one by one as he supposedly answers Eov's question. He's not really answering Eov's question. The question is, why am I suffering if I was righteous? And God is answering him by saying, look at the world around you. Learn about the world around you. Understand the world around you. There's so much more to the world and nature and the universe than just you, right? And who established the laws of nature? Who made them the way that they were made? Me. Can you possibly understand why I made the laws in such a way? Why didn't I make it the way you would want me to make it? So that as soon as someone does evil, poof, they'd be shaken off the face of the earth. Well, that's not what I did. That's not the world that I made. And that's not how it works. Why? You can't access that knowledge. Chapter 39, will continue with this incredible speech of God's answer to Eov and the friends. And thank you so much for studying this together with me. Looking forward to studying chapter 39 and the rest of this wonderful, incredibly powerful book together. Have a wonderful day.